Hello everyone, thanks for taking the time to check out this video. Today I'm going to be going over a low risk and fairly high reward money making game loop in Star Citizen Alpha version 323.1. This is going to be a solo salvage operation using the Drake Vulture. The reason I'm making this video is that there have been some significant changes to salvage from the previous 322 version of the Alpha. The previous well-known method of taking the unverified or illegal salvage missions for constellations or Cutlass ships and breaking them up for construction materials, also known as CM, no longer provides a high enough reward to be profitable over time. CM has had its price significantly lowered for purchasing, while recycled material composites, known as RMC, have had their purchase price increased. The reward for the unverified salvage missions has also been reduced to only 20,000 aUEC for these missions, so they're just really not worth taking anymore. This means that we need to adjust our strategy to gather the maximum amount of RMC per hour, and since that means using the scraping modules to play Space Power Wash Simulator, we need to go after scrap pieces. Scrap pieces yield a higher amount of RMC than salvageable ships, so it's definitely worth going after them. This is an older mechanic, so I'll guide you through this entire legal and somewhat safe game loop. Before we hop into our ship and get out there, I do recommend you set yourself up for success beforehand. At the very least, you're going to need to ensure you have an undersuit and helmet equipped, along with a pyro multi-tool and true hold tractor beam attachment. You'll also want to ensure you purchase a second abrade module for your Vulture. I personally like to bring along some armor, cruise lux, med pens, a paramed device. It's always beneficial to have a weapon in your backpack as well in case you run into some trouble or some sticky situation. Luckily, almost all this equipment is easily obtainable from any of the planetary orbital stations in Stanton. I'd recommend you check out Port Tressler, as we'll be working on a MicroTech system for this video. You can get everything you need from the various kiosks on the Galleria, cargo, and hangars and halves decks. To expedite your journey, I'll point out that you can grab the Aero Medium Armor Set, the multi-tool, the True Hold Tractor, and Cruise Lux from the cargo kiosk. Next, you can take the elevator to the Galleria and visit Platinum Bay to the left side as the elevator as you exit, and purchase a second abrade module for your Vulture. A quick stop into the Med Center pharmacy to get some med pens and or a paramed and some refills for it. As well, you should stop at the insurance booth to set your respawn point at the station, and now you can head back over to the ASOP terminals and we're good to go. Once you're personally geared up, we want to make sure that our ship is set up as well. Head to the ASOP terminal and ensure your Drake Vulture is stored at the station, but don't retrieve it yet. Close the ASOP terminal, press F1 to open your mobi-glass, select Vehicles at the bottom right, and then use the drop-down menu at the top right to select your Drake Vulture. We want to ensure that under the Utility section, we have a cinch, an abrade, a cinch, and an abrade. Once this is set up, we can go ahead and select Save and close out the mobi-glass. At this point, we can retrieve our ship from the ASOP terminal and head to our hangar. Now, the best way I've found to salvage solo is to go after the scrap panels. They can be easily located in the Lagrange belts, including L1 and L2 MicroTech belts near the planet. We want to use these because the best selling price for RMC is at New Babbage on MicroTech itself. By searching L1 or L2, we can cut down on travel time and maximize profit over time. Now, once you're in your ship, you can go ahead and use right Alt and R to quickly place the ship into flight ready mode, then left Alt N to call landing services and get takeoff clearance. 323 has changed a lot of flight mechanics, so I'm going to call out my controls in case it helps someone out. Take off by holding spacebar for a moment until you clear the deck. Then go ahead and retract your landing gear by tapping the N key. By default in 323, having your landing gear deployed enables precision flight mode and severely limits your maximum velocity, so we want to get that landing gear up. As we clear the hangar, we're going to go ahead and open the star map with the F2 key. Head to the search field and type MIC space. Sometimes it won't work unless you press backspace and start over. So MIC space L1 and we're going to select L1A. That's going to take us over to the system here, and we're going to search for the MIC L1 Shallow Frontier Station. You may have to mouse around here a bit to actually get it to select, but once you do have it selected, you can press R like Romeo, or click the route button on the left of your screen to set a route. Once that's done, we can close the map with the F2 key or by clicking the X. Then we're going to hold B like Bravo to switch into nav quantum mode. You'll see we have an indicator on screen as to where we'll need to align our destination. As that completes, we can actually just hold the left mouse button to initiate the jump. Now that we've arrived at MicroTech L1, we need to jump to the station, which is conveniently located right in front of us here. We'll quickly realign and jump again by holding left mouse. Now that we're here, we can middle-click our mouse scroll wheel to switch to nav flight mode, which will remove the quantum UI since we're no longer going to need it. This still allows us to utilize our maximum velocity, and we can fly in towards the station to get oriented in the area. I like to land at the station pads and refuel my quantum fuel before I begin salvaging, in case I need to quickly jump away for whatever reason. You won't need to do this often if you're at the L1 or L2 belts, since they're in close proximity to MicroTech itself, but it is best practice to do so. Since we won't need to refuel right now, we're going to press middle mouse button again until we are in nav SCN or scan mode. Then we're going to scroll wheel up to adjust the pierce range to 50%. Then start pressing tab to send out scanning pulses in front of the ship while flying out along the outside edge of one of these illuminated flight lanes bordering the station. If you want to ensure you have your full velocity available, press middle mouse until you are back into nav FLT or flight mode. Then scroll wheel up to adjust the square indicator to the top of the bar. You can then press and hold W until your velocity reaches maximum. You can then press left Alt C, like Charlie, to enable cruise control, as indicated by the velocity indicator changing to a circle. Switch back into nav SCN mode with middle mouse, and go back to spamming the tab scan pulses. Out near the end of the illuminated flight lanes, you should start to see scanner anomaly clouds showing up while using the scan pulses. Here are some anomaly clouds now. We can mouse over them while in nav or SCM SCN modes to check their RS signature on the right side of our screen. What we're looking for is RS signatures in multiples of 2,000, such as 4,000, 6,000, 12,000, 28,000, etc. A single scrap piece shows up as 2,000, so the number can indicate how many pieces you should locate when you get closer. For example, 8,000 would be 4 scrap pieces, and 28,000 would be 14 pieces. We're going to continue flying around near the ends of the illuminated paths on either side of them while scanning until we detect some relevant RS signatures. While I fly around looking, I can mention the extremely helpful website SC-TRADE.TOOLS. On the site, you could select Salvage from the top navigation bar, then use the Rex dropdown to pick scrap pieces. This will give you a breakdown of which areas have the highest density or best chance of finding scrap pieces. As you can see, the yellow asteroid ring has the most by a good margin, however the risk is increased due to the proximity to Grimhex. This is why I don't generally like to look around in that area. In addition, there's usually a lot more activity due to people trying to do the old salvage missions. ArcCorp L2 and L3 Kirsten L1 and L4 and MicroTech L4 have the second highest density, while the areas we're in, MicroTech L1 and L2, have the third highest density, while, as mentioned previously, reducing the amount of travel time we actually need to put in to get around. There was just an anomaly cloud within our signature of 4,000 that we overshot while looking around, so we'll head back in that direction. Sometimes if you overshoot them, they seem to despawn, and when you fly back, others may spawn instead. So as you can see, it looks like the 4,000 signature cloud appears to be gone, but we've located a 10,000 signature cloud about 14 kilometers away. We can hold B to exit nav mode and switch back into SCM mode to reduce our maximum velocity now and start to approach while still sending out those scan pulses. Make sure to press left Alt C to exit cruise control so you don't actually fly past the panels as well. As we get closer, the cloud-like effect will disappear and you'll start to see some pin nav icons appear. You'll see that these are in fact 5 per the 10,000 RS signature indication. You want to align to these and start paying attention to your signal strength bar just to the left of center on your screen. As you approach the pins, they'll also disappear, so it's important to pay attention to the signal strength and note that it is increasing. I like to start slowing down somewhere around 80%, and then just fly in nice and slow to about 80-90%, and you should start to see those scrap pieces spawn in and become visible. As you can see, there's one panel here, and if we look around while scan pinging, we should start to see the other panels spawn in as well. I like to fly around a bit and back away from the cluster to figure out exactly where they all are and kind of orient myself in relation to them. In this particular instance, it seems I can only see 4 of the 5, so it's possible one of them is just out of my view. We're going to approach one of the panels and press M or middle mouse until we're in the salvage operator mode. Keep in mind you have to be in SCM mode to get into the salvage operator mode. Then we'll right-click so that our abrade scrapers are selected instead of the cinch scrapers. If you ever need to toggle between the salvage heads individually, left Alt A will select the left module, and left Alt D will select the right module. To get back to both, you can use left Alt S, and both modules will end up being selected. When we hover over a scrap piece, you'll see that there are 3 icons that appear under the Salvage Heads section of the screen near the top middle. The icon surrounded by a circle is a representation of how much salvageable material is left on the piece you are hovering over. It will start at 100% and decrease as we start to suck up the RMC. Now we want to position ourselves at an appropriate distance from the panel to maximize our salvage. And you'll see that on the outside edges of our scraper module UI, you'll see distance bars. You want to ideally position yourself about halfway in the blue bar. If you're in the red, you won't be getting a favorable scraping efficiency. You don't want to be too close so you can still maneuver around the panel as well. Now we can actually click and start to scrape the surface material of the panel to generate RMC. You'll see that both of the circles on your scraper modules will rapidly reduce from 100% towards 0%, since they're focused in the same area on the panel. As you aim around on the panel, you'll see this value go back up to 100% and start to rapidly reduce as you suck up the surface material. This is just a representation of the material directly under your scrapers. Your goal now is to just paint over the surface of the panel until every area reads as 0%. You'll be able to keep track of the amount of material left on the panel in total using the icon near the top of the screen I mentioned earlier. You can just paint around the panel like this, or even move into relative flight mode if you have a binding for that set up already for more precise control. However, my preferred method to do this is to press G, which puts your scraper modules into gimbal mode, and keeps your ship stationary when you move your mouse around. Now you can continue Star Citizen Power Wash Simulator and scrape up the entire panel. As you do this, you'll note that the onboard depot of materials shown on the right side of your screen starts to fill up. Once the depot is full, you can stop scraping. Anything you scrape past that point will just be wasted. If you finish one panel and still have room in the depot, you can just move on to the next panel. You should be able to easily get each panel down to a value of about 2% overall material left before moving on to the next. Click to turn off the salvage heads once you're done a panel, and if you were using gimbaled mode, remember to press G to get back into normal flight mode to move around and get yourself to the next panel. Another thing you can actually do is adjust the alignment of the salvage heads by holding left alt and scrolling the mouse. Scrolling up will push each beam further apart, and scrolling down will bring their alignment closer together. I like to try and align them so each beam is just barely overlapping, so we can make wider passes and reduce the amount of time it takes to scrape a panel. Now, just keep scraping panels until you have a full depot. Once your depot is full, you can stop scraping and exit the pilot seat by holding the Y key. Go through the two doors, face away from your ladder and back up to fall down into the bottom deck and skip the climbing animation. Turn to your left and go through the door into the salvage processing and storage area of the ship. Access the salvage processing panel by holding F and scrolling in. You can see that you have 13 SCU of RMC in the depot. Check off that auto eject box at the bottom right and hit the eject button next to RMC. Now you can equip your multi-tool by pressing the 5 key on your keyboard. If you have a Paramed device equipped as well, you may need to press 5 twice to get to your multi-tool. The Vulture has a 12 SCU storage grid, however with a bit of clever stacking, we can actually expand this by an additional 14 SCU. The multi-tool controls are fairly simple. Left-click to engage the beam, left-click again to disengage. If there's a purple outline on the cargo grid when you disengage, your SCU box will snap to the highlighted position. You can use the scroll wheel to move anything in the tractor beam further away or closer to you. If you hold the R key and move your mouse, you can also rotate the item in the beam. We're going to fill the cargo grid from back to front in a specific pattern. Follow along for this first 13 SCU, then head back to the cockpit, salvage until your depot is full again, and come on back here. In the meantime, I'll speed up the video, and you can skip ahead as needed. Now that you have a full depot for a second time, you can head back down to the salvage processing hold and start printing out your second set of boxes. Again, there's a specific technique for stacking so we can maximize our space, and we'll go over that as we go. The first box we print here is going to want to go up and on top of the last of the first 13 we printed. The next one here is going to go right in front of that last stack on the far left. Now we're going to set up one just in front of that, directly in front of the door on the floor. Then we'll set up one just above on the stack just past us. We'll readjust this one over to the left as far as we can. It is important to have these as far to the left as possible. And we're going to have to rotate this one and kind of get it into the top here. And I actually like to kind of just pull it and push it to the left as I pull back into the doorway. And that'll kind of let it swing around to the edge. Now we can go back to filling up the last 4 sections of the cargo grid. And one thing we'll actually go over is that if you aren't fast enough to remove the box from the conveyor, it'll stop printing, and it'll give you this option to continue printing, which is just below on the screen there. It's the box that you can actually see right here on the screen that I'm clicking on, and nothing will happen until you actually clear up the conveyor belt exit. So we'll go ahead and move this box out of the way. And you can see that you can hit that button from a pretty extreme angle. But we'll go ahead and we'll move this box. We'll stack it up into the grid. And we can actually go ahead and hold F and zoom in and click that button and print. This is good to know in case you ever accidentally misdo a stack or your timing isn't quite right and you're going to have to play with it to get it to actually print properly. As you can see here, I'm having some issues where I need to get this box out of the way so that we can actually get the next boxes to print. Sometimes this requires some pretty serious finagling and you may have to rearrange your grid a little bit to maximize the space. Up to you if you want to waste this time or if you just want to give up and be satisfied with the amount of boxes you have in the cargo hold. For the sake of this video, I wanted to get a full cargo grid load, including all the space around it, so I'm going to take the time to actually rearrange the boxes here and get them in place. I'll speed up the video. For the very last box, what you want to do is grab the box with the tractor beam and hold it up above the cargo ejection point on the conveyor belt, and it'll print out a box, wait for it to completely print, and then you can release that box on top of it, and you now have 14 additional SCU of boxes in the hold. Now the only thing left to do is to head back up the ladder, go back into the pilot seat, and since we're trying to maximize profit, go ahead and fill up your depot one last time so that once you're back at your selling location, you can sell your cargo, come back to your ship, print out a whole nother depot's worth of cargo, and then sell that without having to go back to space. Now that we have a third and final full depot, our ship is completely full. We can plot a route back to our cell location on New Babbage by pressing F2 to bring up the star map, head to the top left search bar, and search for New Babbage. Set route, and engage that quantum jump after aligning. Once you arrived above New Babbage, we're going to head down to the Commons Surface Access location. This is a popular location to land as you can quickly access the various stores and kiosks to buy and sell. Once you're in the sky above New Babbage, the easiest way to locate the Commons Surface Access is to look for the spaceport. Follow the transport capsule line across the ice, and look for where it branches off towards the buildings lit up with light. Aim for the lit up buildings, and that's where your landing location is going to be. As you come into land, you can go ahead and press the N key to deploy your landing gear, and we're going to try and land on the very top of the hill up from the frozen ice, just to the right of this upside down constellation. Ideally, we want to try and land as far left and as close to the building as possible, just so we don't have very far to run. Bring your ship in nice and slow. You can scroll down to adjust your maximum velocity. And once you're touched down, hit I to turn off your engines, so if your ship gets bumped, it doesn't float off into the sky. Now, the best way to get out of your ship, since we can no longer exit the ship using the cargo bay, is to hold F, look down to the bottom left, where it says exit to rear. You can right-click, and then mouse down to the bottom right option. It's kind of off the screen here, but if you release, it's going to exit you out the side door of your ship directly without having to exit behind and then open the door as a separate action. From here, just run off the claw of your ship up to the access door into the commons. Go through these two doors, kind of like an airlock. You can use Alt-X to wipe off your visor if it's stormy outside, as it usually is on MicroTech, and then use these elevators to go up to the commons level. From here, we're going to make a right, head out towards the commons. We're going to run right past everyone in the center area here, working out. Look for the signage for the plaza. We're going to go straight through, down the steps, and through the factory line lobby. Straight back up the steps towards the Trade and Development Division. Through the door and to the terminal. From here we can hit F to interact, select our Drake Vulture on the left drop-down, and as you can see, there's currently no demand. This is because lots of people are currently selling recycled material composite, and there is a global maximum on the server. So, wait around, check in. Every 10 minutes or so, the server will reset and you will be able to sell. As you can see, it's been about 10 minutes. We're going to check in, and now you can see RMC is in demand. So we're going to go ahead and sell the 12 off of the cargo grid. Nice 175k there. We'll sell another 14 that were off the grid for 202k. And now we're going to have to exit the terminal and get back to our ship, fly the ship up to a hangar so that we can utilize our tractor multi-tool, and then print out the last 13 SCU. We'll see you there. that we've arrived safely back into a hangar, all we're going to do is hop out of our seat with the Y key, head back down into the salvage processing area, and we're going to print the remainder of our boxes. Pull out your multi-tool, and we should be able to start moving boxes around now that we're in a hangar. We can continue ejecting here to make sure that the rest of our boxes get printed. And the order for this doesn't really matter because we've only got 13, maybe 14 max, depending on how you did everything, boxes to print. So we'll just get those printed, and then you're going to just take yourself back to the TDD, however you want to get there, and sell again. And that's pretty much it for salvaging solo in 3.23. I hope you guys have found this video helpful, and if you have any questions, please leave a comment. I'll be sure to keep an eye on them and get back to everyone that I possibly can. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more Star Citizen videos like this, and you like my channel, like, subscribe, all the general YouTube stuff that people ask for. It does help us out. It gives us metrics so we can actually see what videos do well. And I'll see you guys in the verse.